Seeds of Change, Episode 2. Together we heal. Light streams through hospital windows, catching dust motes that dance like tiny stars. In a quiet research laboratory, Dr. James Chen stares at a computer screen, his face illuminated by rows of data that tell a story of hope and possibility. 20 years ago, he was on the other side of medical research, a patient running out of options. Now, he stands at the forefront of a revolution in how we understand healing. The morning air carries the antiseptic scent common to all hospitals, but today there's something else, the subtle fragrance of herbs from the medicinal garden visible through the window. It's no ordinary hospital garden. Each plant here has been carefully chosen, its properties studied through a unique collaboration between modern medicine and traditional healing wisdom. When I was diagnosed, James says, adjusting his lab coat, I thought my story was ending. Instead, it was just beginning. He moves through the laboratory with quiet purpose, checking on various experiments. Each station tells part of a larger story, the story of how personal experience transforms into scientific pursuit, how individual healing becomes collective hope. The laboratory walls are lined with photographs, faces of trial participants, each with their own story, their own journey. But among them, one face appears repeatedly, Sarah Martinez, the botanical researcher who changed everything. Her discovery didn't just save lives, it transformed how we think about medicine itself. Sarah taught us to look at healing differently, James explains, touching one of the photographs. She showed us that sometimes the answers we're seeking have been there all along, waiting in traditional knowledge passed down through generations. We just needed to learn how to listen. 10 years ago, Sarah was a promising young researcher, passionate but struggling to be taken seriously. Her interest in traditional healing practices raised eyebrows in conventional medical circles. But she had seen something others had missed, a pattern in how certain plant combinations work together, something that couldn't be explained by current medical understanding. The camera follows James as he walks through the hospital's research wing, now one of the world's leading centers for integrative medicine. Every room here, he gestures, represents a bridge between different ways of knowing. Traditional healers work alongside medical doctors. Patients participate in their own healing journeys. Everyone has a voice, everyone's knowledge matters. In the clinical trial center, a new group of participants arrives for their morning session. Among them is Maria Torres, a grandmother whose traditional knowledge of healing plants caught Sarah's attention years ago. Now she serves as both participant and advisor, helping researchers understand subtle aspects of plant medicine that modern instruments might miss. When I first met Sarah, Maria recalls, adjusting her bright shawl, I thought she was just another scientist wanting to turn our plants into pills. But she was different. She wanted to understand not just what the plants did, but how we understood them, how we worked with them. She listened, really listened. The story shifts to Sarah's early research days. Archive footage shows her initial presentations, met with skepticism by medical boards. But the data was compelling. Plants that traditional healers had long used together showed remarkable properties when combined, properties that disappeared when the plants were separated into individual compounds. It wasn't just about finding active ingredients anymore, Sarah explains in an old interview. It was about understanding relationships, between plants, between traditional and modern knowledge, between different ways of healing. Everything is connected, and when we ignore those connections, we miss crucial pieces of the puzzle. James moves through the laboratory's plant analysis section, where high-tech equipment sits alongside traditional preparation tools. Sarah's work showed us that sometimes the most sophisticated science involves stepping back and looking at the bigger picture. Traditional healers had understood these synergistic relationships for generations. We just needed to learn how to verify and document them in ways that bridged both worlds. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A trial participant with a particularly resistant form of infection showed remarkable improvement using a combination therapy that merged traditional plant medicine with conventional treatment. When researchers analyzed the results, they discovered something extraordinary. The plants weren't just supporting the conventional treatment, they were actively enhancing its effectiveness in ways that transformed our understanding of both. That's when everything changed, James remembers, examining trial data on his computer. We realized we weren't just looking for new medicines, we were discovering new ways of thinking about healing itself. Sarah had been right all along. The knowledge was there in traditional healing practices. We just had to learn how to see it through both lenses, traditional wisdom and modern science. The camera follows James into a consultation room where trial participants meet with both medical doctors and traditional healers. The space itself reflects this integrated approach. Modern medical equipment shares space with traditional healing tools, while large windows look out onto the medicinal garden. Every person who comes through that door, James gestures, brings their own knowledge, their own understanding of healing. Our job isn't to replace that knowledge but to work with it, to help bridge different healing traditions in ways that serve each individual's journey. In the garden, Maria leads a group of medical students through the morning plant tending routine. It's part of a new curriculum that James and Sarah developed, where future doctors learn not just about plant properties but about the cultural and traditional contexts that inform their use. These young doctors, Maria smiles, showing students how to check plant health. They come knowing so much about molecules and mechanisms. But here, they learn something equally important: how to listen. To their patients, to traditional knowledge, to the plants themselves. This is how healing becomes whole. The camera captures morning light filtering through leaves, creating patterns that echo the molecular structures these same plants reveal under microscopes. It's a visual representation of what this program has discovered. That wisdom reveals itself at every level, from traditional understanding to molecular analysis. Back in the laboratory, James reviews data from their latest trials. The results continue to surprise and inspire. Combinations of plants that traditional healers have used for generations are revealing new possibilities for treating contemporary health challenges. But more than that, the way these plants work together is teaching researchers new things about how healing itself works. We're learning, James explains, that healing isn't just about targeting specific symptoms or conditions. It's about supporting the body's own healing systems, about understanding the connections between different aspects of health. Traditional healers have always known this. Now we're beginning to understand it in scientific terms. The program has grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a small research project now attracts participants and researchers from around the world. Each brings their own healing traditions, their own knowledge, their own questions. The result is a constantly evolving understanding of how different healing approaches can work together. Sarah, now directing research at multiple centers, appears via video conference. Time has added silver to her hair, but none of her enthusiasm has dimmed. What amazes me, she says, is how each new person who joins us brings pieces of the puzzle we didn't even know we were missing. Traditional healers from different cultures often recognize patterns in each other's knowledge, even when their specific practices differ. It's showing us that there are fundamental truths about healing that cross cultural boundaries. The camera moves through different sections of the research center. In one room, scientists analyze plant compounds using state-of-the-art equipment. In another, traditional healers demonstrate preparation techniques that have been refined over generations. The two approaches don't compete. They complement each other, each revealing aspects of healing that the other might miss. Every discovery, James notes, leads to new questions. But that's the beauty of it. We're not just looking for answers anymore. We're learning to ask better questions. Questions that bridge different ways of knowing, different ways of healing. In the trial participant lounge, people from diverse backgrounds share their experiences. Some are here seeking healing for themselves or loved ones. Others, like Maria, bring generations of traditional knowledge. Still others are medical professionals looking to expand their understanding of healing. What happens in this room, James gestures to the animated conversations, is as important as what happens in our laboratories. People share their stories, their knowledge, their hopes. They learn from each other. Healing becomes a collaborative journey. The camera captures small moments, a traditional healer showing a researcher how to read subtle changes in plant leaves, a patient teaching doctors about their lived experience with traditional remedies, medical students learning traditional preparation techniques alongside modern laboratory protocols. These moments, James reflects, they're what Sarah saw all along. Healing isn't just about what happens in the body. It's about connections, between different kinds of knowledge, between people, between traditions. When we honor these connections, new possibilities emerge. The research center's success has led to changes in how medical trials are conducted. Participants are no longer passive subjects, they're active collaborators, their knowledge and experience valued alongside scientific data. Traditional healers serve as advisors, helping design studies that respect both scientific rigor and traditional understanding. It's changed how we think about evidence, James explains, reviewing trial protocols. We still need scientific verification, of course. But we've learned to look for evidence in multiple ways, to value different kinds of knowing. Sometimes traditional knowledge points us toward things our instruments aren't yet sophisticated enough to measure. In the garden, as afternoon light softens the air, Maria works with a group of researchers to document subtle variations in plant properties based on growing conditions. Her traditional knowledge helps guide scientific observation, while laboratory analysis helps verify and expand traditional understanding. The plants, she says, gently touching a leaf, they teach us if we learn to listen. Not just with our instruments or our books, but with all the ways humans have learned to understand healing. This is what Sarah and James helped us remember, that true healing comes from bringing together all our wisdom. The camera follows James as he makes his evening rounds, checking on trial participants. Each room holds a story, of hope, of healing, of different traditions finding common ground. On the walls, alongside medical charts, hang artworks created by participants, expressing their healing journeys in visual forms. Sometimes, James reflects, I look at these walls and remember being a patient myself. How desperate I was for healing, how limited my understanding was then. Now I see how much richer healing becomes when we open ourselves to different ways of knowing. In the research library, volumes of traditional healing knowledge sit alongside medical journals. Students move between them easily, learning to read both, to think in multiple ways about health and healing. It's a physical representation of the bridge this program has built between different healing traditions. Each book here, James Gestures, represents part of humanity's understanding of healing. But the real wisdom comes from learning to read them together, to see how different kinds of knowledge illuminate each other. As evening approaches, the garden takes on a different character. Traditional healers often say this is when certain plants reveal different properties. Modern instruments have verified these observations, showing how plant chemistry changes with the daily cycle. It's another example of traditional wisdom leading scientific discovery. We're learning, James says, watching the sunset paint the garden in golden light, that healing wisdom reveals itself in many ways. Through traditional knowledge passed down through generations. Through scientific observation and analysis. Through the lived experience of those seeking healing. When we honor all these ways of knowing, something extraordinary happens. The camera captures final scenes of the day, researchers and traditional healers reviewing results together, patients sharing stories in the garden, medical students practicing both laboratory techniques and traditional preparation methods. Each scene represents a bridge between different healing traditions, different ways of knowing. What we're doing here, James reflects, returning to his office as day turns to evening, isn't just about finding new treatments. It's about remembering that healing has always been about connection, between different kinds of knowledge, between people, between traditions. When we honor these connections, healing becomes more than just treating illness. It becomes a way of bringing wisdom together, of learning from each other, of growing stronger together. As night falls, the research center quiets, but work continues. In laboratories, long-term experiments progress. In the garden, night-blooming plants reveal their properties. In data centers, computers analyze patterns that bridge traditional knowledge and modern understanding. Every day here, James says, preparing to head home, we're writing a new chapter in the story of healing. Not by replacing old wisdom with new, but by learning to bring different kinds of wisdom together. This is what Sarah showed us was possible. This is what every person who comes through our doors helps us understand better. The episode ends with James looking out over the darkened garden, city lights twinkling beyond. Tomorrow, he reflects, new people will come through our doors, bringing new knowledge, new questions, new possibilities. This is how healing grows, not in isolation, but in connection. Together, we're learning not just how to heal bodies, but how to bring wisdom together in ways that heal our understanding itself. In the garden, night-blooming flowers open under the stars, their properties waiting to be understood through both traditional wisdom and modern science. It's a reminder that healing knowledge, like nature itself, reveals its secrets in many ways. We just have to learn to listen with all the ways humans have learned to understand.